Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where this week I have been living with this 2025 Honda Civic Hybrid. The 11th Gen Civic got a facelift for the 25 model year, and this hybrid was added to the lineup as well. I've actually driven a few of these at this point, just got back from Nashville, Tennessee, driving the hatchback variant of this new 11th Gen Civic, but have never actually gotten the opportunity to live with one of these cars until this week. So today we're going to show you what it's like to do so. But before we do that, let's talk about what we have here in front of us. This is a Sport Touring. This is the top of the line. The hybrid comes in two trims, Sport and Sport Touring. Ranges in price from 29 to 32 grand. Honda doesn't really let you spec out a ton of things. They kind of just let you choose your paint color. That's been what they've done the last few years or so, or probably even longer than that. But as long as I've been doing this job, Honda hasn't let you choose a ton of options. So this one, as spec'd today, is about $32,000. It's finished in urban gray pearl, which is about a $500 add-on, and honestly I think the term urban is a little bit overused in the car world to describe colors, that is, but I guess we're in a bit of an urban setting today, so it works out. It's kind of the same color as the floor of the parking structure. But Honda has done a few things to this to step it up a bit for the 25 model year. Of course, they've added the hybrid option, but we also have a revised front fascia on this car. New upper and lower grille, and all of the Civics kind of share this front end design now. This used to be unique to the hatchback, but they all now have it. The hybrid gets these unique 18-inch wheels wrapped in some 235 section Continental tires, and we also get some slightly tinted taillights around back for the sedan models. The hatchbacks are unchanged. I mean, overall, a pretty mild facelift on the outside. They have done a couple of other things within, and we'll show you some of those when we get into the interior of this Civic Hybrid, but they've stiffened up the chassis, made it a little bit safer for side impact crashes, you know, stuff like that. And I mean, that's kind of just what facelifts are all about, improving small things that the original car should have had in the first place. So let's poke around this thing, and then we'll jump on the road and we'll show you what it's like to live with. It's a bit dirty today because I have legitimately been living with this Civic Hybrid Sport Touring. Trunk space on the Civic sedan is quite adequate. You don't get quite as much room as you do in the hatchback. You can fit many bags of groceries or a couple of day bags if you are going on a trip. The seats do fold down with a pass-through in a 60-40 split if you want to fit even more stuff, but if you're taking really big things, I would recommend you go for the hatchback because that gives you just that much more room. Let's poke around in the back seat of this thing, and this is honestly what sells this car for me, because you can use this car for family purposes, obviously, and at 5'11", sat behind myself, look how much legroom I have in the back of this Civic sedan. Headroom is pretty decent as well. I can sit up straight, and my head, even with a camera on it, does not touch the ceiling. I found a little bit less headroom in the back of the hatchback, but it makes up for it in room behind the rear seat, so you just got to figure out what makes sense for you. Fold down armrest with some cup holders. What we don't get in the back are any air vents, and I have to keep reminding myself that this is still a Civic. It is still an entry-level Honda, so when I'm up front and I'm impressed with all the things up there, you know, there's a couple of things missing up there, a couple of things missing back here. You know, Honda does still want you to step up to the Accord for some reason. If they gave you everything in the Civic, there would be really no reason for the Accord to even exist. So a couple of things missing, air vents, some things up front that we will talk about. We only have one seat back pocket back here. But since this is the Sport Touring, we have some leather seats in here, we have a Bose sound system, and we have the built-in Google infotainment system. Before we jump up front, let's pop the hood and talk about what is powering this Civic Hybrid. So I just posted my Civic Si review today on the channel, the day this video is being filmed. And I've got a lot of people in the comments saying, oh, well, the Civic Si makes the same power as the hybrid, so why wouldn't you just get the hybrid? And I mean, they are for very different things, but in some ways, those people are not wrong, because it does make the exact same horsepower as the Civic Si. So this is a 2-liter naturally aspirated Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder engine. It makes 200 horsepower and 232 pound-feet of torque. And power is sent to the front wheels via Honda's 2-motor hybrid system. This technically does not even have a transmission. If you go on the website, it'll tell you it has an eCVT or whatever. But it doesn't. It's a direct drive. It's got 2 motors. One's a generator, one's a power sending unit. Some witchcraft happens, and then power is sent to the front wheels. If you want to know how this system works, there are many videos on the internet that tell you all about it, but I don't fully understand it. Tedward does a good job explaining it, but I'm just here to tell you what it actually is. 232 pound-feet of torque is quite a number, and this thing is pretty quick. I think in a straight line section, it would indeed take the Honda Civic Si down. So a pretty good amount of power here, and for people that are longing for an automatic Civic Si, I suppose this is kind of as close as you can get performance-wise. And, you know, all Civics are fun to drive. I'm not saying that this thing isn't fun. You'll see that once we get out onto the road, but a very clean and nice-looking engine bay in here for a hybrid. Of course, we have our silly little orange cords that run all around, but otherwise, everything fits in here nicely. We don't get any hood struts on this car, but it's 32 grand, it's a Civic. So let's go ahead and jump in. We'll show you around the front, and then we'll go for a drive. Normally it won't fire up the 2-liter when you are starting, but I was sitting up here staging the car for quite a while, depleting our hybrid battery. You can see our gauge for that on the left side of our fully digital gauge cluster. That battery will charge itself back up, it'll shut the engine off, and then we will be riding on electric power, I'm sure, all the way down the parking structure. There are a few changes up front for the 25 model year. For one, we have this 10.2-inch Google built-in infotainment system. We've been seeing this on a lot of other Honda vehicles. It has wireless Apple CarPlay, and I have my phone set up for wired CarPlay just because with the TheTopher and I sharing this car, sometimes we film videos together and then the car gets confused on whose phone to connect to. But just know, even though my phone is plugged in, it does have wireless CarPlay. We have a Bose sound system in this Sport Touring. These are both options that you have to get the Sport Touring in order to get. The Sport does not come with the screen, nor does it come with the Bose sound system, nor does it come with leather seats. And being that this car is only like $3,000 more, I would say just go with it because this Bose sound system is pretty dang good. We'll do a demo on it later. Once we get out onto the road, we'll let you listen to it. This has been the same sound system that we've had the last couple of years in some of these higher trim Civics, and it sounds excellent. I would venture to say that it is probably best in class for these small compact cars. I love this vent design, this kind of continuous strip along the dashboard. Of course, it isn't all vent, but the vent placement is nice. The way you aim the vents is quite nice. We have this physical climate control panel with really nice clicks on the knobs. I mean, the 11th Gen Civic has always had a nice interior, and it stays nice for 25. Honda hasn't gone overboard. They haven't gotten rid of anything in here that they haven't needed to, and everything is just feels just about perfect in here. Ergonomically, it's great. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but elbow comfiness is quite nice. This is a very soft and squishy center console, as well as the pad on your door panel. We have these paddle shifters behind the steering wheel. That is to control your regen braking. We'll show that once we are driving. Traditional shifter here, wireless charger. That is a Sport Touring thing as well. A few drive modes, individual Sport, Normal, and Econ. I suppose we'll start in Econ today. Why not? But I think that's just about it. You guys probably know this car pretty well by now. So let's go ahead. We'll pull up our Google map here. You guys can all take a look at that. We'll throw our seatbelt on, and we'll get out onto the road. But actually, I want to do something really quick. This Civic Hybrid is rated at 50 MPG in the city, 49 combined, I think 47 highway or something like that. But the most important figure for this is, of course, the 50 city, because I think a lot of people that buy this car are going to be doing this sort of thing, living with it, daily driving it, obviously driving it in city settings is, I suppose, what I really mean here. So I'm going to reset our trip here. Trip B reset. And I'm going to see what kind of MPG we get on our drive today. The rating is 50, so we'll see if we can do that. I'm actually going to go into reverse and show you our backup camera. No 360 cam, though we do have parking sensors around, and this is a pretty dull display. I mean, this is definitely not a super high definition backup camera. Anyways, though, we'll throw this into drive. We have our little display on the screen here that shows you when the car's brake lights are lit up. It shows you turn signals, all that good stuff. And our 2-liter has actually kicked back on. I think I'm going to be able to get down this structure, though, without using my brakes at all. Pretty clever regen system in this Civic Hybrid. You can pull the down paddle on the steering wheel. You have 3 different levels of regen braking. Unfortunately, after you give it any sort of throttle, it does reset, and you have to do it every time, unless I believe you're in sport mode. I feel like sport mode will keep your regen, which is a bit strange. But we'll test that theory now. Yep, it does. Okay, so if you want to keep your regen, you just have to ride in sport mode, which is kind of funny. I guess it's Honda's way of making you feel like you're engaging with the car with the paddle shifters. But I will say, I do like, I mean, there are many manufacturers that are doing this now with the paddle shifters, giving you the option to regen. Even in full electric cars, you'll see this, and it's a nice, easy, and familiar way for people to adjust that. And of course, it is a physical button, so we love to see it. Let me drop the windows here. You can hear our You can hear our hybrid driving noises there for pedestrian safety or whatever it is, but the car does emit some sound as you are in EV mode below a certain speed. Maneuvering this Civic is the best part about driving it. We have a pretty light steering feel in this thing. You can make it heavier by toggling yourself into sport mode, of course, but eco and normal, very light and precise steering in this car. This is just about what I would want to have on a car like this. I don't think I would want the steering to be any heavier. It feels just about right. And the size of this, yes, the Civic has gotten a bit bigger over the years, but it is still a nice placeable size. Seating position is nice as well for visibility. See, I can get myself around here no problem. Mirrors are nice, I can see out of it, nicely placed, nicely sized. I can confidently pull myself up to this thing too without crashing into the curb.
Please insert your ticket with the barcode facing up, or scan your money. Thank you for your business.
Oh, today's Sunday, it's free. Aha! We're gonna do a quick little loop around the city because why not? We are currently averaging 70 miles per gallon. I'm actually gonna put us back into eco mode. Econ, as Honda says. Quick little loop around the city, and then I actually have to run to Whole Foods and grab some things for a dish that Emily is making for dinner tomorrow. So we'll just kind of jump around the city, we'll stop at the store, and then we'll jump on the highway and we will go home. You can really baby this throttle off the line, and you can stay in eco mode, or EV mode rather, up to about 10 miles an hour with no real issues. Now, this regen braking will not take you to a complete stop. It'll slow you down enough to get you started, but you have to then complete the process with the brake pedal. I'm gonna see how long I can stay in. Oh, okay, up to 14 miles an hour. And here's the thing, okay? This Honda two-motor hybrid system, since all of it's just kind of one big unit, the transition from hybrid to internal combustion is the most seamless I have ever felt on any other hybrid vehicle. I mean, you just don't know what's happening. I mean, there's no indication whatsoever that this is switching back on to this 2-liter Atkinson cycle engine. Throttle response, everything, it's very, very natural. You have just the slight audible change. I'm not going to lie and say that this is the smoothest or most refined 2-liter in the world. It is still a 2-liter. It's quieter than most, honestly, but it is still kind of just a grainy, uninspiring noise. But I'm not looking to necessarily be inspired. With this being a hybrid, of course, you always worry about what the brake pedal is going to feel like. Happy to report, it's quite natural. It's progressive, and you don't feel... It doesn't feel simulated. I remember back in the day working at the Ford dealership in my youth when I was a teenager, when the 2013 or whatever Fusion Hybrid came out. I used to nearly send myself through the windshield on those cars because the brake pedal in that car was so unnatural. It took a lot of getting used to, but in all of these new hybrid cars, I mean, companies have learned how to do that. So brake pedal feel in this car is quite nice. For 2025, Honda has also added some extra sound deadening to the Civic lineup, and the Sport Touring gets just a bit more than the other cars. So it's these little sound deadeners that sit inside the tires on the wheel to reduce rotational noise. So quite clever. And it's worked. I mean, one of the biggest complaints with this 11th gen Civic, and in fact every Civic prior to it, is just they were loud. They're loud cars. I mean, they're cheap economy entry-level cars. You never expect them to be like luxury limousines, but it's nice to have a bit of quietness and a bit of reservation here in this new sport touring facelifted Civic. Overall interior sound deadening as well. It's not too bad. I mean, it's not the quietest thing in the world, but I'm decently sealed off. Window motors are kind of loud, but we do have 2 auto up-down windows in the front. Check that out. The rears are not auto up or down, but that's okay. This is peculiar. There are just cars parked in the absolute middle of the road. As you can see, no parking. I think maybe the thought is they can't send 15 tow trucks. One person, I suppose, just kind of takes it for the team. Anyways, let's talk about ride in this thing. Nothing really crazy going on with the suspension setup in this car, of course. And we are running on some 18-inch wheels. Stay in your lane, please, Chevy Trax. Okay, we're just going to have to power past the tracks here. But the ride quality is quite nice. I think if we had wheels that were an inch smaller or 2 inches smaller, it would be sublime. Some really nasty potholes on here. And, you know, I'm not going to lie and say that the ride is, like, super squishy and floaty, but it's also not super firm. It's not crashy. I mean, it's a cozy ride for an economy car. I mean, that's a terribly rough section. Not only is it not super loud, it's not rattling me to pieces. This is a cozy car. Excellent Land Cruiser there. Very nice. Looks like Miles' Land Cruiser, actually. I will take the pothole lane. I am nice and cozy. The city's been a little chaotic today. I've been trying to play it cool. I've been trying to just be chilled out here, so I hope you appreciate my chill demeanor in the absolute mess of chaos that Ann Arbor has been today. And I'm getting in the left right now because we're about to be turning into Whole Foods. But in the city setting, this is a very nice car to drive. I have no real complaints with this thing whatsoever, because you have to think, this is still a Civic. I could ask for a 360 camera and air vents in the back and, you know, certain things here and there, but there has to be a reason for larger and more luxurious cars. You can't have everything in a small car that in some cases is sub 30 grand in 2024. I think the one thing I would like to see, and that I don't feel bad complaining about, is a bit of lumbar adjustment to this driver's seat. It is a power seat, of course, but my back does get a little bit sore in this seat after sitting in it for 45 minutes to an hour. So if you're going to be taking this car on a road trip, maybe a pillow, a back pillow would be nice for you. I don't think it would be too expensive to add just a little psh, psh, kind of lumbar thing in the back of this driver's seat. So that would be nice to see for the future. Maybe just in the sport touring model, you know? I mean, I wouldn't even expect it in trims that are below 30 grand, but I would maybe like to have that here. So far, we've been averaging 42.5 MPG over the last 3.5 miles. We have been doing a bit of idling around, lots of stopping and going. Should be regenning, giving this thing some energy back. We are running downhill, still in EV mode, 29, 30 miles an hour. Let's regen ourselves into the Whole Foods parking lot. Gonna have to give it a dab of brakes. It's a nice FJ Cruiser. Well, I suspect Whole Foods has fixed, or rather the city of Ann Arbor has fixed the water main break that prevented me from going here in the IS 500 because the parking lot is full once again. So we'll maneuver this thing a bit. We'll get it into a parking spot. Excuse me, Larry David. pretty effortless to maneuver this Civic around the parking lot, and honestly, that's what you'd expect for a car like this. You know, this is honestly a car anybody could get in. You know, your grandmother could get into this car and know how to work absolutely everything right off the bat. I mean, she might have trouble with her Apple CarPlay, but, you know, as far as like getting in here, driving the car, I don't think she'd be running over curbs or anything. It's just easy, and that is the main goal of a car like this, is just to be easy, reliable, effortless transportation. The Civic has always done a great job of that, and I mean, you know, this is no real different story here. Not wrapping the video, just gonna run into Whole Foods real quick, so that was a little bit of a conclusion, but let's shut this thing off. It's gonna tell me to check the rear seats. Okay, checked them. We'll show you some spacing here in the Whole Foods parking lot. Obviously fits in the spot with no problem at all. It's just a great size. I mean, a lot of people, I think, could get absolutely everything they need with a car this size. Anything in this segment, and especially the Civic. Okay, cool. I'm gonna run into Whole Foods, get some groceries, and then we'll come out, we'll hop on the highway, we'll do a sound system test, and then we'll wrap it up. Walking back up to the Civic, we can see we have cars on either side at this point, with the Subaru actually being closer to the line, but we still have plenty of room to get into our car. Of course, you could use your key fob to unlock the doors, or we do have front proxy key. That will not unlock your back doors. You do have to reach in and click this unlock button, which can be a bit annoying if it is, say, raining, like it is right now, and you can use your back seat for your groceries. I do want to show you guys scale in the trunk. I don't think we're going to use the trunk because we just kind of don't need to. Don't really have any storage solutions back here for hanging bags or anything like that that I can see. And under the trunk floor, we actually do have a couple little cubbies right there, but these bags are going to be a bit too big to fit into those, I think, or maybe not actually. Oh, spoke too soon. Well, we'll just do that, because then we don't have to hear them rustling in the back seat. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump in. CEO of talking to myself in public. We'll fire this thing up and we will engage our automatic wipers. It's another thing you get on the Sport Touring. And cool, I think we are ready to go. One thing I like about having front cameras on cars, and of course this doesn't have it, but if you're in a situation like this where you've got a couple of blind areas because you're parked in between two cars, it does kind of help you creep out a little bit easier so you don't get crashed into by Karen and her Chevy Suburban. All right, it's a little bit of a busy time of day, so we're going to take a little tour of this parking lot. We're going to go this way by the Barnes & Noble and out to an area that has a traffic signal. Keeping this thing in EV mode through the parking lot. I know you see me. Nope, you don't, because you didn't even look. Didn't even look. Oh, goodness. All right, it's time for a bit of a ground clearance test, because this is a very steep driveway. I don't think we'll need to angle this too much, though. I think the Civic is going to have plenty of ground clearance. Oh, yeah. We are golden. And we'll come to a stop. I'm going to go ahead and get a song queued up so you guys can listen to this Bose sound system. A couple of different options here for volume control. We have the physical volume knob here on the screen, or we have a little clicker on the steering wheel.
I don't know why you got me sinking so low.
paddles are nice to use in traffic like this. You don't have to keep spamming the brake pedal. Turn the music down for just 1 second to say one thing before I forget. The only thing that isn't so great about these is when you do use the regen paddles, it does not light up the brake lights. And I know that because this little display on here tells me when the brake lights are lit up. I'll tap them here to show you what I mean. You can see that now. A little bit of brake input from the brake pedal lights up the brake lights. All of your regen settings, braking quite a bit harder than you would with just the brakes, does not light them up. So just something to keep in mind. So as you can hear there through a couple of distractions, the Bose sound system is pretty dang good and probably top of its class. I spent a lot of time in the Kia Forte. We road tripped that down to Peoria. And the Harman Kardon in that is pretty good, but I think the Bose edges it out just slightly. This is definitely better than the JBL you get in the Corolla. And I would say it's better than the Bose in the Elantra as well. I don't really think... You know what? I take it back. The Bose in the Mazda 3 is I think the only one that gives this one a run for its money. And it may actually be just a little bit better. But, you know, Bose is in quite a few cars in the segment, and this is still a pretty strong contender there. So I just like that we finally have branded audio in any Honda cars, and, you know, the Civic at that. Now, it's worth noting I am running the air conditioning today, so that is, of course, degrading our fuel economy just a bit. We've been doing 40 MPG so far over the last 6.5 miles of our trip. There's a Civic hatch. Very nice. I saw a crash happen here a couple weeks ago, right in front of me. It's a good thing I was allowing enough following distance, or I would have been in the crash as well. So one last thing we should talk about with the Civic Hybrid are all of the driver aids. Now, these have also been fiddled with for the 2025 model year. They've been updated to feel more natural, I think were the words of the Honda engineers that told me this months ago at the first drive event of this car in Montreal. But, you know, they're right about that. These driver aids, the problem with a lot of these lane keep assist and adaptive cruise systems is they get outdated very quickly because there's always somebody coming out with a system that's just that much more refined, that much smoother. So these companies have to keep up. They have to keep, you know, every year updating these systems to make them that much better, that much more natural. And for 25, Honda has done this with the lane keep assist as well as the adaptive cruise. Some of these cars, not the Civic, have a lane change assist. We saw that in the MDX that I road tripped down to Nashville. I don't know if that video is up yet or not, but you'll see that eventually. But I think the best variant of this system, which is so funny to say, is here in the Civic because it isn't, using all 232 pound-feet of torque there to get myself away from those people. But anyways, we're gonna jump back over and drive normally so I can show you these driver assist systems. You can see our blind spot monitor going off there. Anyways. Lane keep assist, that can be turned on independently from the cruise control, which we like to see. Cruise was already toggled on, and we'll set that. So this will actually steer for you for some amount of time before it prompts you to take over yourself. Lets you go for quite a while, actually, before it tells you to put your hands on the wheel. Let you go about 10-15 seconds, however long that was. Overall, it's a pretty good system, and genuinely, it does feel the most confident here in the Civic. This is kind of one of the freshest updates to this system. You can see it highlights vehicles. It's locking onto that car in front. You can adjust your distance here for the adaptive cruise. A little bit of noise on the highway. I mean, that's when you can really tell that you are, in fact, in an entry-level car. highway NVH is something that, you know, unless you're in a pretty upscale luxury vehicle, you're not going to be whisper quiet. So we've got a little bit of road noise here and some wind intrusion. Seating position and overall ergonomics in this car are very nice. You can set yourself up really comfortably to drive this car, long distance road trips, whatever it may be, on your morning commute. You can rest both your elbows, rest both your hands on the steering wheel, and be relaxed. Not to mention the lane keep assist does most of the steering for you anyways, so you kind of just have to be here, and the car takes care of the rest. I have had it drop CarPlay twice for me this week. I think that's just because I've been running it wired. Sometimes wired CarPlay glitches out, but I've had it drop CarPlay twice. It comes back usually after about 10 seconds. Kind of just has been doing like the Subaru thing. Turn off our lane keep as we get off the highway. 45.8, we're up a bit on our MPG. My biggest takeaway after driving just a ton of these cars over the last few months, I've driven like 4 of these things, and it really just validates my initial thoughts from when I drove the first very early versions of these cars back a few years ago, and that is that they are simply nice. I don't know a better way to describe these cars, but they do really punch above the competition. The materials in this car, they're very nice. The way this car drives, the light steering, the precision. You know, Honda always has a way of making their non-enthusiast cars still fun to drive. And if they're not necessarily fun, I don't know if fun is the right word, but they are satisfying. You can tell that people that care about driving have engineered this car. And it's nicer to drive than pretty much everything in the segment. The Mazda 3, like I said, it's up there. But this is just a nice car. It feels nicer than 30 grand is kind of what, that may be the best way to put it. So we'll end here in the parking lot that we normally start in, but overall just a nice experience. I've loved living with this car this week. It's just so easy. Everything is so easy, it's nice, it's effortless. And you don't really desire anything in this car besides a bit of lumbar adjustment for the seat. Everything else is just about perfect here in this 11th gen Civic Hybrid. And if you're somebody that, you know, wants a little bit of performance, a little bit of straight line speed of the SI, but you don't want to shift your own gears, maybe take a look at this hybrid, because it does actually have more torque than the SI. It's fun to drive. I drove the Civic Hatch Hybrid on a back road in Nashville, and I had a ton of fun. So I think no matter what your intentions are with this car, you will be quite satisfied. This is definitely one of the best cars on the market in 2024 in just about every variant. And I hope that it continues to be. You know, the Civic is quite iconic. It's been around since, like, what, the 1970s, and it's still going strong. So, cool. Well, there you go. There's a little bit of what it's like to live with the 2025 Honda Civic Hybrid. If you guys have any questions about this thing, make sure you leave them in the comments for me. Also, I started a driving playlist. If you want to join the Sunset Drive playlist on Spotify, still working on Apple Music. I think I actually just got a free subscription, so I'm probably going to be making an Apple Music playlist here soon for you guys to join. But yeah, if you want to come hang out with us on Spotify and listen to the same music that we do, then you are welcome to do so. That will also be linked in the description. But that'll wrap it up for us today. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.